Okay, I'd like to welcome you all to another episode of Innovation, Proactive versus Reactive, where we really start to explore what innovation is in our new normality. And we have our special guest here and an old friend of mine, not that we're old because we're the same age, but from way back. And we're going to explore a little bit about what innovation means in terms of pitching. Now, Elaine Tan-Comeau is a mompreneur, as well as the founder of Easy Daisies. Now, you might know Easy Daisies, might sound very familiar either because it's in your household right now, or you might have even seen her on Dragon's Den. And she was one of the companies that the Dragons actually fought over, and I looked to explore a little bit more of that with you, Elaine. She was also a winner of Kevin Harrington's Pitch Tank, and she was featured in Forbes, Maclean, CBC, Fox, CTV, Canadian Business Magazine, and the Financial Post. Of course, I had to write this down because of the long list that was there. She was also awarded the 2014 Canadian Mompreneur of the Year, 3-time nominee for the RBC Women in Influence Award, Chamber of Commerce Award of Excellence in Business, and Easy Daisies has actually won about 13 awards and was announced as one of the 2018 top 10 most innovative companies by Small Business BC. She's also a support. Being able to call yourself a mompreneur already tells everybody that you're a supporter of other mompreneurs, and I love that. I love that word because it really kind of pushes a lot of power into place and support and mentorship into place. So Elaine's also the lead ambassador of the Western Canada chapter of Mompreneurs Canada. She also has a podcast called Elaine's Kitchen Table. Oh my gosh, how do you do all of this stuff? So the business of real life. And she's also the author of, oh my gosh, I lost the name of the book. So the author of Sell Your Passion. And I would love to tell, so I've kind of given you a little bit of a road path into who you are. So I'd love to hear a little bit about who you are as well.
Well, thank you very much, Cindy and Curly, for having me. I'm so honored to be here. And we are definitely all in this together. It's a very unique time that we are in. But, even though with social distancing, I think it has brought everyone closer together. People have found new ways to connect. And because of that, it has, I think, put in the forefront how important other people are. And so I do really appreciate that and thank God for technology. I am a mom of 3. I was a school teacher when I accidentally created a children's product. And it was being a school teacher, I fall in love with my class every year, and I still love it. I miss teaching, in fact. And I fall in love with my kids every year. In fact, my grade 2 class, they sang at my wedding. But now they're old and they find me on Twitter. So I don't know how they grew up so fast. But I knew there was so much working against my students, my children, when 1 in 4 come in with anxiety issues, 1 in 6 with learning disabilities, 1 in 48 on the spectrum of autism, and 1 in 2 from broken homes, and the list goes on. And so when a mom would ask me, Elaine, Mrs. Como, can you make a daily schedule for my child similar to what you have in the front of your classroom to help my child get out the door faster in the morning? And of course I would draw every single illustration simple enough so that a child who was a non-reader, whether they were 3 or 11 years old, having a visual study shows that children as young as preschool age benefit from a visual schedule because they cooperate better, they have smoother event transitions, there's less anxiety. And so I made them for free for years and years, and then I thought, maybe there's a product here because the market was definitely there. So I did the research and discovered there wasn't a product that was a daily visual schedule. And so I saved up that first $1,400 I needed by selling crafts and by tutoring. And then I launched it 2 days after my 3rd baby was born. And it somehow became the number 1 back to school must-have in Parents Magazine. And then stores started to call and asked if they could carry Easy Daisies. So it's called Easy Daisies because it was a product created to help children have easier days. And that's why it's called Easy.
I love that name.
And so then we went into 2 stores, 26 stores, 67 stores, and at one point, 1,500 stores across North America from off our kitchen table. Our little townhouse that we had looked like Costco. It had 11 4x4 pallets of product jammed in my house, and my 3 kids would have to walk through a maze of pallets to find the kitchen. And I fully understand what it means to work from home, because I would have conference meetings standing with the phone in the pantry with 3 little kids banging on the door, and then I open the door a little bit and throw out some Rice Krispie squares to buy myself 5 more minutes, and fully get it. And we had 18-wheeler trucks that would pull into our cul-de-sac, and I knew exactly when they were coming because they would be very angry to be driving an 18-wheeler truck into a townhouse complex. So I would bake cookies and muffins and present those to the driver. And I'd warn all my neighbors. And because I had lived in a townhouse then, I would make sure my next door neighbor knew. And he would joke with me, and he said to me once, he said, "Oh, Elaine," he goes, "honey," he goes, "don't worry." He goes, "We know when your magnets come because all our pots and pans go cling onto the wall between our houses." And I seriously hope he was kidding, but so easy daisies. My husband and I went to our first trade show many moons ago, and it was a national toy show to wholesalers, and it was in Toronto. So we flew out there, and I thought, how are we going to do this? I don't have the money to do this. And when you are an entrepreneur, you are a unique breed because you are very resourceful. You will find, when you have a problem, a challenge, it doesn't stop you. You just find ways to make it work. You keep finding a way to get around, over, under, whatever you need to do. And I remember doing so much research on this first trade show, and I discovered that they had something called the Inventor's Corner. And it was, instead of these $10,000 booths, it was $500 for a table, a 6-foot table in the back of the room. And I thought, this is perfect, great, because I still had to buy the airplane tickets, find somewhere to stay, and pay for this, and find someone to take care of 3 children. And so it was at that trade show that we picked up many more retailers, but one lady, she asked me if I could make her 8,000 units. And I thought, okay, well, in my head, I'm telling myself it took me a year to make 2,000 off my kitchen table. But I said, yes, of course I can. But it's going to take me a while. And she took me by the hand and she said, "Oh, honey, you need to get off your kitchen table. You need to go on a show called Dragon's Den." And I said to her, I said, "Have you ever seen that show? Because it's not called the Nice People Show." and we went home, and I think my husband was on the computer, and he turned to me and he said, "Elaine, Dragon's Den is here on Saturday." I believe it was Thursday. And it was one of those now or never moments. And I remember being really shy about it and didn't tell anybody except for my in-laws, because I was supposed to work at their scrapbooking store on Saturday. And so my husband and my oldest, who was she was 8 years old then, and we went to audition. And I thought it was going to be like American Idol, where you had to line up around the block, but it wasn't. I was number 7, and I remember we showed up at this room downtown in Vancouver, and there was no one there from CBC, but people kept pouring in to pitch. And then so I went into school teacher mode. I found a scrap piece of paper, and I ripped it up and started writing numbers and handing them out to people. And everybody thought I worked for CBC, and I would say, "Oh, no, I'm just number 7." And so I remember being incredibly nervous, and I was just pitching to producers. And the producers told everybody that this was the start of their 6-week nationwide auditions, and they would only contact people who were invited to come pitch in Toronto at the end of 6 weeks. And you would only hear back if you were invited. And so sure enough, 6 weeks later, we got a phone call, and the producer said, "Bring the kids." And my kids at that point were 2.5, 4.5, and 8. And I thought, what? and I said, "Are you sure?" And she's like, "Oh, honey," she goes, "it's a TV show, not a boardroom. So bring the kids." And I remember talking to my kids. I, if you've ever seen the show, there's a staircase that goes up and you walk across a bridge, come down the stairs. And our entire family had bronchitis at that moment, except for my oldest. And I just remember, oh my goodness, how am I going to do this? Because every time I spoke, I had to cough. We were told we had anywhere between 5 minutes to 45 minutes. And we were in front of the dragons for 48 minutes. And if you watch the pitch, because you can still have access to it on the CBC.
And we'll share that with everybody.
If you see it, it's about I think around nine minutes, which I was told was incredible, because that's a very long time to have your a pitch be shown on a TV show. And so I remember we got there, and my 2.5-year-old threw up all over the floor.
No.
We were all sick, and I got down on my hands and knees and wiped it up because I am mom. And I got up and said, it can only get better. And it was an incredible experience. I would say that when you are preparing to pitch to anyone, whether it's Dragon's Den or an angel investor, it is the best business crash course 101 ever, because you need to know your numbers, you need to know your 5-year plan, your exit plan. You want to know all these things so that you are enticing your investor. And we can go into that as well, because I'm
going to just pause you there for a second, because I want to, it's just a perfect segue. I also want to introduce Coralie Banks, who is our sponsor for today. And with Real Value Capital, they actually help prepare companies who are ready for seed rounds. So I'm just going to let her do a little bit of a thank you from our sponsor piece, and go ahead, Coralie.
Well, thank you very much. I'm Coralie Banks, and I'm the CEO Global of Real Value Capital, or RVC. We're a Made in Canada company, and we help businesses grow through angel investment funds. That's 500,000 to about 5 million. So these are real dragons, and we have a secret sauce. We prepare people for pitching and put them in front of select group out of our database of over 30,000 angel investors. And we have a 90% funding success rate for our clients. So when you're talking about what you need to know to pitch, Elaine, we're exactly there. And we're delighted to be able to sponsor this series. So thank you so much. If anybody wants to know more about how to go in front of dragons and how to show you the money, let's connect. Thank you very much.
And dragons and angels, because they're not all dragons.
Well, they're gentle dragons, many of them. We know them. And so that's really a handy thing for our clients, that we'll get them in front of, we use a scalpel approach, so we'll get them in front of the right folks that are already interested in their area. That said, Elaine, let me underline what you've said. You have to be ready.
Yes. And I love that that piece about you saying that pitching in front of dragons, or pitching, is like the best business crash course ever. And I'm going to let you carry on from there. Thank you so much, Coralie. And I'd like to also say, if anybody has any questions throughout any of this, please feel free to either type it into the Q&A, or type it just into the comment section.
Thank you, Cindy. Thank you, Coralie. I am so honored to be here. And I am learning every day, and I love sharing what I learned. So I hope that it helps somebody to have a faster track. And I think we need each other, right? We do through this world. But if you want to come back, I can talk about strategies for pitching at the end, if you'd like.
Absolutely.
And so we did stand in front of the dragons. But before we went up, I remember talking to all 3 of my young children, saying, keep your hands down, don't touch your face, don't pick your nose, don't touch anything. And because children are so unpredictable. And we did go in, and it was a crazy adventure and a huge blessing because you don't really know what to expect. It's different than Shark Tank. With Shark Tank, they have seen the company, they do know it before they see you. With Dragon's Den, they have never met you. They don't know anything about your business. So it's that pitch is very important. What you say, the first words out of your mouth, the first 30 seconds, better make them sit at the edge of their seat. At least that's your hope and your goal, because very quickly you can tell whether they are interested or not at all. And remember, it is their money, so you want to present what is in it for them. As important and as special as we think we are, and our product or invention or service, it is about them. And so we did have the honor of inciting a bidding war between all 5 dragons, and I'm sure having 3 cute children helped. But we did choose 2 of them to be our partners, and then it's been an incredible journey. My partners were more of a silent partner, and they just trusted me through my own journey. I did not go on the show to get money. I actually went on the show to get expertise. And so I am grateful. One thing I do appreciate, all the dragons, even the dragons keep changing every year. But what I love about CBC Dragons Den is these people, these investors are self-made. They have been there. They have been in their basement, in their garage, building their business. So they get it. And I really respect that of these investors. So moving forward, the 2 investors I chose, and I don't know if you want me to say who they are, you can just watch it, but they're very opposite from each other. And one is more about royalties and licensing your product, your product, and the other one is more about rolling up your sleeves and having your own warehouse and doing every aspect. So I have done both in my Easy Daisies journey. I have licensed Easy Daisies twice over 6 years to 2 different companies, and I have had distributors all through the journey through the last 8 years, and I have been rolling up my sleeves, and I'm back in that journey too of taking it back onto me and having my own warehouse and lifting my 40-pound boxes and making sure shipments are going out. And that is very important. I think there's nothing more valuable than having been in every aspect of your business, because you understand it best when you have been in every aspect of your business. And we entrepreneurs, right? We do wear every hat. But the smart thing to do is to learn where you are not strong at, so that you can partner with somebody who does have that skill set, so that you can focus on what you are good at. I say that, but it's always a learning journey, because I think entrepreneurs, we like to have our hand in everything. But I was reading a book by John Maxwell, and he said that he who is everywhere goes nowhere. So you do want to remember things like that. I love to read, and during this COVID time, I think I just finished 3 books in the last 2 weeks. But there's always something to learn every day, and during this COVID time, it is definitely a time to have to learn, but to contribute, to give back, and to establish partnerships.
Absolutely.
So if you want to survive through this, you want to do all those 3 things.
So speaking of partnerships, you mentioned that you knew a lot about the investors. Did you do your research on the investors before you got in front of them?
Oh, absolutely. I actually cover this on several podcasts with Elaine's Kitchen Table, about 5 things that you need to know before you pitch, and 5 strategies for having the perfect pitch. But one of the must-knows is you must know your investor. You have to do your research. You want to know what they also bring to the table. And it's really not just about money, because if it's just about money, then you're probably going to have the wrong partner. So it's very important to, I know it's cliche to say same core values, but it is so important. I have learned that through my journey that core values is fundamental in any partnership, whether it is going to be an investor or your first retailer, your sales rep that you might hire, anybody, because skills can be taught, but not core values. Core values is innate. And so if your future partner, investor has those same core values, it's going to be a really good partnership.
I agree completely. So now that we have more time to research, how do you think, and I'm assuming right now that a lot of startups are struggling and panicking because they're so used to it and they've already prepared and they've already done a series of steps that they wanted to do to get in front of investors. They may have validated their idea already. How do you think that process is changing right now in the midst of COVID, in the midst of a virtual world, in the midst of fears and anxieties really stifling or actually creating stronger innovation platforms?
I think one thing that's very important right now is relevancy, right? So you want to show how your idea, your product, your service is relevant. How is it going to grab your investor? And so I also do consulting, and one of the key things I always share is that my 5 strategies on how to pitch. But that first one is learning how to grab them, right? Like, you need to know how to grab the attention, the interest of your investor, and that is by grabbing them with a pain of the existing problem that you are trying to solve or provide a solution for. Um, and because we can't always fix something, but we can provide tools to help people deal with that problem. So what is that problem? So you need to grab them with the pain of it. So that's the first words that come out of your pitch should always be something that they can relate to, right? They don't want to hear about your credentials. They don't want to hear about how excited you are about your idea, but talk about something that is relevant to them, to our world, that would just make them go, yes, I feel that pain. Tell me more. Like, because now you're connecting on a problem, right? It's like when you're sitting across the table with your girlfriends or friends, and you talk about something that connects you all because you feel the pain or the emotion, the passion about something. So it is about people, because your investors are people. So let's bring them in by connecting on some real passion or pain, and then you are then going to reveal your unique solution to this problem, this solution that you have. So that first one, though, is the most important. Is just to grab them with a real, true, relevant pain, if that makes sense.
It does, absolutely. And you know what? Actually, it resonated with me even more when you brought it to the table with my girlfriends. So all of a sudden, and I'm a storyteller, I don't know if you remember, Elaine, I love to tell my stories. So if I'm sitting around at a table with a bunch of my friends, if I want them to listen to me, I'm going to have to make what I'm talking about exciting. And I believe that that's the same beautiful analogy if you're going to get in front of investors. It's their money. It should be personal to them. It should resonate with them. And what better way than to start off with the pain point at the very beginning of a pitch?
Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And I think right now, in this COVID time, um, I was just speaking at another event to college students, and who are graduating and looking for employment and work, and many of them are going to be entrepreneurial. It right now, as it might be challenging to get a job, as it might be to get investment, it is a time to offer your skill set as a gift. It is a great time to present how you are helpful. So that means like offering strategies. You see a problem, you can make friendly suggestions. And and just offer it as a gift in that sense. And it is amazing when you give what comes back at you. And so this is a time to connect. So if you are an investor, I'm sorry, if you are looking for investors or you have these great products, you have this wisdom and this expertise that only you have. So this is now the time to share your expertise and to give it as a gift, because people will remember and they'll be like, I want to work with you. I want to invest in you. I love what you know, and that's, what else do you have? And so it's just a very good time to do that.
And I think it's really about, so in terms of innovation, proactive versus reactive, right now we're very much in a reactive, which is not necessarily bad. We've heard this from a couple of our other guest speakers. Reactive is really just, innovation is really the birth child of necessity, right? We've heard that in so many different ways. So right now, running and waving and just keep going. Elaine, I've used this analogy. If you remember where we lived, I used to walk home from school, and as soon as I got to Penwick, we'd have that crescent. Well, I was running after a mutual friend, Hilda. I thought I saw her from the back, so I ran up to her and like, Hilda, Hilda, Hilda. And then I got up close and I realized it wasn't her. So I kept running around the corner onto Penwick from our school. And I just kept running and waving because I was embarrassed. So that's my analogy for life. Keep running and waving. And right now in this new virtual reality, it's really kind of strange to say, we're in a virtual reality. Everything's moved to a virtual way of thinking. It's not a matter of panicking and going, oh my gosh, I'm no longer relevant with my new idea. We really have to kind of take the idea and going and think about, how does it fit now? What can I do to change? And through Real Valuation, I'm a commercialization mentor, and I'm working with two very innovative companies, and I'm not going to plug who they are, but I am going to plug a bit of their journey. So one of them is based out of Fort McMurray, and right now they're dealing with floods. 4 years ago, they dealt with wildfires, and the product that they're producing is so relevant to disaster recovery. So I'm like, well, why don't you just tell that as part of your pain, your story? Because that pain point right there is so relevant. And the other one, that it's an education technology company, and they deal with neural gamification. With homeschooling right now, that is so critical and so poignant. So make sure that you have that as your pain point right off the top, because in a virtual pitch, even in a normal pitch, make sure it resonates with the now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I guess on that point, how has your business changed with all of this new virtual reality, with the new COVID rules, and how are you running and waving?
Okay. Yes, I liked your analogy of the running and waving. So I love it, and it is true. You have to think quick, don't you, as an entrepreneur? And someone defined an entrepreneur as someone who jumps off a cliff and then builds the airplane on the way down. And just like when you're running and that's not your friend Hilda, and you keep waving, right? You're thinking quick even at that young age. Awesome. Yeah. And so with Easy Daisies, my product is still, timing is everything when you're creating a product. Like I know that manufacturing takes 3 months, and I know that the different avenues have changed. It is very important to never put your eggs all in one basket. It is important to have different revenue streams, even for a product. So you think, okay, do I want just one distributor? Do I want to just license it to one company? If it's a product, you do want to have different avenues where revenue does come in. So whether it's selling it on Amazon and then licensing it and then having a distributor, we have seen that during this COVID time, children are more than ever craving structure and routine. And we see that because our sales for Easy Daisies have spiked, and so not just on our website, but in Amazon, for example. Our mass retailers are still ordering, and I'm very grateful and count it all a blessing. And so we gave a huge discount on our website because that's one place I can control. I can't control what other people sell Easy Daisies for, but I I have different angles that I do a lot of speaking and sharing as a parenting and educational expert. So I've been in the media a lot, just sharing. But it was funny because at first I was on CTV for sharing about road trips and snacks and hacks on your road trips, and that was right in the beginning of spring break before everything got cut off and you're not allowed to do road trips. And then to speaking about how to work with your children at home and how to work from home with children at home. And so offering expertise and sharing, and the blessing of that is then I guess people find Easy Daisies as well. So putting yourself out there and giving that, um, it, when you find a way to help and bless others, then you just never know what comes back. And so I feel really honored. I still feel very honored when anybody buys Easy Daisies because I feel so blessed and humbled by it, and just it blows me away that someone would buy something I made, like even 9 years into it, and I'm still very honored. And I'm actually going into the warehouse and packaging orders, and so I'm writing handwritten notes wishing families happy and healthier days, and I'm wrapping them with tissue paper, things that people would shake their heads at me because it slows things down. But I just feel for families, and then throwing in some bonuses when they didn't order them. But I know what I think I know what families would like, and who doesn't like an extra bonus or a gift? And so just I think when you start with gratitude, I think everything is a blessing. And so I'm always grateful. And believe me, I've had painful lessons too. I've exported to France and I still have not seen the $10,000 in payment. That is 4 years ago. So yes, I'm not saying be too kind. I'm just saying I have learned lessons along the way too. And I do share them on my podcast, but yes, always trust your gut. Don't do business with your heart. Yeah, people with your gut, and your work with your heart, and money with your brain. And so, yes, lots of lessons to be learned and shared.
Absolutely. So you mentioned France. Have you gone global, and has the new now affected your global impact?
I have slowed down on the global, yes, indeed, and that is because of a transition in business from taking it back from a licensing partner to me focusing now on Canada and reestablishing relationships when the hands have switched for how they get Easy Daisies, my product. So my focus has been, I always recommend that you start your radius small, concentrate on your own community, and then when you have nailed that down and become really successful in your small radius, then you expand it a little bigger. I always get nervous and have shivers when people tell me, oh, I have this new product and I'm going to sell it to the US. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. You have to be very careful. So you want to prove success in a small circle first, and then you can copy that model and into another place. But if you don't have success in a smaller model first, then it's really hard to build it from scratch in a larger scale.
I love that. Build success in a smaller model first. I think that really resonates with especially our audience. So Coralie's actually said here as well that partnering with multiple revenue streams is an excellent way to thrive. She also mentioned that the two companies, or the educational technology company, I'm just going to give a quick shout out to them, UEQ. We're just actually starting to look for investors right now. I also wanted to, we said it kind of getting closer to the end, I'm going to leave 15 minutes for questions, a little bit open But I'd love to explore um, the virtual pitch and how people should prepare. We talked about the pain point being a really critical piece. We talked about learning your weaknesses and make sure that, and I assume that that probably goes with the make sure that your team is a nice equal balance of skills, so that where you're weak, your team excels, and make sure you convey the journey that you've kind of been through. I'd love to hear more about what you think pitch wise. What suggestions you have?
Absolutely. And I don't want to say I'm an expert, but I have learned that pitching is pitching is pitching is pitching. Whether you are sharing it to investors, or pitching your product or service to a customer or to a retailer, I've summed it up. Being a school teacher, I made an acronym. It's a great pitch. So a GREAT, and I go into this more in depth, again on my podcast, and actually in my book, Sell Your Passion. So G is to grab them, right? It is to grab them with that pain point right away. So there's relatability. They connect. They feel that pain as well with you, and you want them on board right away, right? If they don't understand what you're talking about, they're going to sit back in their chairs and they're probably thinking about what's being served for lunch. I don't know, but you want them not to be leaning back. You want them to lean forward and think, yes, I agree, right? Just like, you're having that conversation with your friends over a table. They're all leaning in and feeling that pain together. And then that R is to reveal your unique solution to that pain point. And talk about, this is a brief point here, because you're not so much selling, but you're saying, okay, we all agree that there's this pain. Now I'm going to reveal this solution, this unique solution that I have. And then that E is to explain your story. So now this is the secret sauce to your recipe, because no one else has your story. Someone else might have a solution to that same pain point, but no one else has your story. So this is the beautiful part. And this is the parts where, like Dragon Den, Shark Tank, this is the part where they love. This is like when you are invited to pitch on Dragon's Den, I think they invite like 160 people pitchers to pitch, but they'll only air maybe 2/3 of that. And even if you get a deal, it might not air. It's all about the interesting story. So if it's TV worthy is what they say, but this is the most important part. So share your story of how you came about this solution. And then A is to always provide proof. You want to show that it works, right? Like what is the success with your solution, and always provide proof. And like, did you win awards? Do you have these incredible testimonials? Do you have a truckload of purchase orders already, and you just can't fund it to make these into reality? And T is for tantalize them with the numbers. And this is very important, right? Like, this is the icing on the top, or the whipped cream, or the cherry on top, is to tantalize them with numbers. And this is where you might pull out your purchase orders, or you say, I started with, $20 in sales, and now we're going to have $100,000 in sales. Or whatever it is. So give them numbers and say, look, there's these purchase orders that I have, and I can't even make them happen, but with you, we can solve this problem together. And so they've already connected with you that there is this problem, and now ask them if they want to be your partner in providing this awesome solution. So that is the great pitch that I've learned and modified over the years.
That's wonderful. So how many times have you, different arenas have you pitched in? So you've done one on TV, and how have they different? So how many different platforms have you pitched in?
I'm going to say I'm constantly pitching. And whether you are finding a distributor, whether you are talking to, um, I think I probably pitched 3 times this week.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, I did. So whether it is finding a new partner, whether you are trying to get your product or into a national retailer, you are sharing those same 5 things that I just shared, because it has to benefit them. And if you think about each of those points that I shared for the GREAT, each one is about your person you're pitching to, right? It's like, how will it benefit them? Like, there's this problem that they can help solve. There's this unique solution that they could help provide. They have my unique story behind it to help them market it. There is proof that it works, and there is these awesome, tantalizing numbers that they will get sales from. And so they do want a proven product in some way. So help them see that. So I am currently talking to a new distributor. And so that was me pitching to them. I was flown out by a different distributor years ago. I was thinking to New York, to Barnes & Noble, where it was just little me and 11 people from Barnes & Noble. And it was pitching again. It's me sharing the story of Easy Daisies. And that was probably our largest order we've ever received, when they ordered it for just under 800 stores across North America. And so it's and if you don't get the deal, if you don't get the offer, it's not a failure. It's a huge learning experience. And you have to embrace those times. I know failure sounds like such a bad word, but it's great. If you didn't fail, you didn't try. If you didn't fail, you didn't go out of your comfort box. And you need to take those steps, and then you learn from it. And I'm not saying that I haven't pitched and then walked out and went to a bathroom and cried. I have done that too, or that was awful. And and I did that even when I auditioned for Dragons Den. I thought, oh, that was awful, because I remember, okay, I can nail this in 45 seconds, because I just came back from a 4-day trade show where I said the same thing over and over and over about use cases. So of course I could do this. And I was so nervous when I auditioned for Dragons Den. And I remember, okay, I could say it 45 seconds. And I'd start speaking within my second sentence. They cut me off. I didn't even get to pitch, and they were bombarding me with questions like, aren't you too small for the Dragons? Why would we want something off your kitchen table? Blah, blah, blah. And I thought, oh, I did awful. And I was telling my husband, he was there, he heard it. My 7.5-year-old daughter was there too. And my husband reminded me that I answered every single question. And I only thought I did awful because I couldn't say the 45-second paragraph that I wanted to say, that I thought was necessary. But you know what? Obviously, it showed that it wasn't what they wanted to hear. And because time was limited, they knew exactly what they wanted to hear. And so hopefully my acronym of GREAT helps you as a listener who is going to pitch understand what they want to hear.
And it really resonates with me. So I've had a number of opportunities to pitch. Any opportunity I have to pitch to investors or pitch myself as well. I had some of the strangest places I've pitched in. I actually pitched in an elevator at Startup Festival. They had a little elevator there.
Oh, that's awesome.
There's a wonderful organization called, was it? I can't remember. It's a coding organization, not-for-profit group, and they had all of us pitch in 10 seconds. So can you imagine putting it all? And I practiced and I practiced and I practiced. I'm 10 seconds, blah. And how do you get somebody in 10 seconds to be interested in you? That was probably one of the most challenging ones.
Yes, indeed.
I also had the opportunity to pitch in the CN Tower elevator.
What? How long is that ride?
and it just happened to be a windy day, so you were supposed to have the whole pitch all the way down and then all the way up. But because it was windy, the elevator ride when I got in was nice and slow. So I had so much extra time. So always be prepared
Yeah.
to be able to go on to your pitch a little bit longer and supply a lot more detail. As you were saying, your pitch, anywhere from 5 to 45 minutes, and yours went to 48. So another piece is to make sure you're prepared for anything. Be prepared to be unprepared.
Absolutely.
So it is now 15 minutes left of our chat today. So I'd like to open it up to anybody who has any questions. And you just, if you'd like to speak, just raise your hand. Otherwise, just type it in, and I'll read it out for you. And we can, if you'd like to ask your question yourself, put it into the Q&A section. If you'd like me to read it out, put it into the chat section. Now, I do have, so while we wait for those questions to come in, if there are any, I do have some pieces that I ask all my guests, and that is, do you have any advice for startups today that are feeling less motivated?
Okay, so less motivated in pitching or less motivated in what they're doing?
All of it. So everything, they were ramped up, they were ready to go, and now with everything changed, they feel like they have hit a roadblock in what COVID's really kind of stopped them and everything.
Oh, absolutely. And so I'm going to say if you have lost your gumption, it might not be what you want to do. And the thing about being an entrepreneur is you are going to be very passion driven in that solution that you are providing because you believe so passionately about it. Nothing is going to stop you from sharing it with the world, right? If you have something so great, you should be shouting it on the top of the rooftops. And I'm not saying that we don't have our down days, but you know what? When there is no money coming in, there are no sales coming in, your fuel has to be your passion. And so if you are lacking that, then it might be an indicator that you shouldn't be doing it, perhaps. But at the same time, there are moments where I want to throw in the towel too. And it doesn't mean that you don't believe in what you're doing. It is just sometimes frustration can pile on you, and it weighs a lot when it piles on you. So I think you need to go back to your why. And as much as you've heard people say that, and there's great TED Talks about that, you do need to ask yourself, why am I doing this? You know, and I think when in my first several years of doing Easy Daisies, I worked till 3, 4, 5 a.m. And then I was also a school teacher at that time. And then I'd have a conference call, a Zoom meeting that would be at 5 or 6 a.m. because no one cares what time it is in Vancouver. And then I got in a car and then I drove to the school I was teaching grade 2 or 3 at. And then I'd come back and do it all over and have children. And so what was my why was reading the emails and messages that I got from families, from like a mom with 3 children under 7 with autism sharing that because of Easy Daisy, she doesn't have to talk all day long anymore. Or a divorced dad saying that there's consistency now in both homes because of Easy Daisies. Or a mom with a 9-year-old nonverbal child, and she shares that Easy Daisies has improved the quality of life for her daughter. Those are my whys, and they kept me going. So asking yourself, why am I doing this? And then remembering that's why. And then you just pull your socks up and you keep moving forward.
Keep running and waving.
Yes, indeed.
Now, right now, I think not just entrepreneurs, but a lot of us are, even our children, we're kind of faced with this new reality, and mental health is an issue, and things are changing so fast. And there are roadblocks, both physical and mental, that we're coming across. And you talked about your stroke and what you learned from that. And if you don't mind, I'd love to kind of, because some of the points that you made on Facebook, I've been reading them, really kind of resonated with me and some other people that I shared them with. And I'd love to kind of hear a little bit about your journey from recovery on.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, so I just had my 2-year stroke anniversary on April 25th. And I'm honored now actually to be a spokesperson for Heart and Stroke Foundation, helping to educate women especially about stroke, because we don't know the symptoms. We don't know that it's the 3rd leading cause of death in women and kills twice as many women as breast cancer. But yes, I fell out of bed one morning and I had lost the left side function of my body, and I ignored it. I didn't understand it. I didn't think stroke, because why would I have a stroke? And so I remember, like, I mean, it hit home every single thing I tried to do. Like, I somehow made it to the bathroom. I am left-handed, and I remember trying to brush my teeth, and I couldn't even. My toothbrush flew across the bathroom, and I didn't understand it. I tried two more times, and I couldn't bring my arm up to my face, so I had to try brushing. I brushed my teeth with my right hand. It was just so awkward, and I didn't go to the hospital for 14 hours. My mindset, even though my physical self has changed and my brain obviously has changed, because a stroke is a brain attack, not a heart attack, a brain attack where oxygen gets cut off to parts of your brain. And it is a medical emergency. You should actually go to the hospital right away, because it can result in permanent brain damage or fatality. But I was not so smart in that, and I have three children. I have three small businesses, and I had my assistant coming to work from my house that day, thank God. And I knew something was wrong, and because definitely something was wrong, and I tried to call to make a doctor's appointment, but they were full. And I know my speech was different, but it wasn't until putting the kids to bed that I went. My husband took me to emergency, and then they didn't see me again for like 9 days, because I was transferred to a different hospital because they said I was too young to have a stroke, and the MRIs and CT scans showed that it was not my first stroke. And because I've had multiple strokes, they needed to transfer me to another hospital. And then they discovered I had a patent foramen ovale, which is a hole in the atrium, the wall between the atriums of my heart. And so I did have that procedure to close it. But through my 7 months of stroke rehab, I learned many great lessons, and two which I will share. And one is to put your time and energy where your heart is. And this is very important, because when you focus on that, you will work with the right people. You will draw the right people to work with and partner. And I remember, I wanted to work with this one mass retailer, and I emailed them for about 6 weeks and I never heard back. And I also know in my head, I keep telling myself, it takes 7 touches before sometimes a sale can happen. So I was just being persistent, and so I finally did get an email back from a buyer, and he said, okay, let's have this meeting. And it was going to be a phone call, because they were across the country. And I was so excited. I ran to the calendar to write it down, and then I saw, oh no, it's my son's grade 1 end of the year concert. And I can't do this meeting because I need to be there for my son. And so I was feeling sick to my stomach to have to cancel this meeting that I've been wanting for many, many months. And I wrote to them, and I was honest, and I said, I am so grateful, but I cannot do this meeting because of my son's first end of the year first grade concert. And so the importance here I'm trying to say is family. Put your family first, and be honest about it, because you will be amazed at what comes out of it, and you will learn who you want to work with. And I remember this gentleman wrote me back saying, of course, if you go to your son's concert, please go and call me as soon as you are done. And I did exactly that. I sat in the car at that school parking lot, and I called, and I am honored, so honored and grateful to say that Easy Daisies has been a bestseller in Staples, Canada, since 2013, because of this gentleman. And I remember being also in the hospital recovering from stroke, or dealing with my stroke. And I had so much going on at that time. I was supposed to launch a book. I had a large test order going to one of the largest mass retailers in the USA. And I was just trying to get it all done, and I couldn't even get a laptop. And my husband had to help me to make sure everything was going through. And I remember finally getting a laptop and writing to this retailer that was doing this test order and apologizing that I haven't been in communication. And I let them know very minutely that I was actually at the hospital because I'm dealing with stroke. And their one and only question was, will you meet the deadline? And so I don't work with that company anymore, but putting your time and energy where your heart is, and you will draw the right people, and you will want to work with those right people. The second one is learn and master the art of single tasking. I'm not saying you have to single task all the time, because I know the social media glorifies multitasking, and you'll see images of women juggling babies and laptops and coffee mugs. But when you can master the art of single tasking, you are going to increase the quality, the commitment, and the growth in that relationship, whether it's with your friend, your partner, your family, your children, or a future business or a business relationship. When you can just focus on doing that one thing and doing it really well, that is an art. Because, for example, our children and our spouse, they're not going to remember those times we multitask, but they are going to remember the times we single task with just them. And so will your clients. When you just cut out everything and just focus on your client, your investor, they are going to remember that, because life can be very cluttered and noisy, and not everything is urgent and important. And when you learn that, it's humbling, and you want to put your hands in everything. But sometimes focus on single tasking on the most important times. That's the two things I wanted to share.
Oh, Elaine, that's wonderful. That really resonates with me. And I'm pretty sure that everybody's going to take a look at that and almost feel relief. Because when you're multitasking, especially as a mompreneur, I know myself last year, and we're just coming up on Mother's Day, so shout out to all the moms. But last year, I'm reflecting on my time. I was with the company that pulled me out on Mother's Day and forced me to work, made me feel guilty, and another mom as well. And I thought, this is toxic for me. This is not where I want to be. So number 2 really resonates with me. Manage the art of single tasking. I have not heard that from anybody else, and I think it's and focus on one single task. And I think that you have such an organized way of thinking and an organized brain which really kind of led to Easy Daisies in the first place. And I think that maybe you should create something that's Easy Daisy-esque for entrepreneurs so that they can organize their tasks and really kind of stick it on their fridge and away we go.
Indeed. I actually have something. I'm actually going to give it as a freebie. So it's not on my website right now, but I created, and it's like a notepad for women entrepreneurs, and it's called the Boss Lady Calendar. But it's just your week, and there's so much more we can talk about, and I know we're running out of time, but entrepreneurs, we actually have our days upside down. We often spend 60 to 80% of our time in operations, and then less than that 10 and 20% on sales and marketing. And we need to flip that pyramid upside down and make the operations about 20% of our day, and the sales and marketing the rest. And so I actually have this calendar that I created for women entrepreneurs that helps you to focus your priorities and to learn to single task, so that you're only making yourself do 3 things that are your main goals that day. And you want to at least start your day with an hour or 2 in income generating tasks, so that you aren't just doing the operations, because we can spend all day long doing operations and do nothing with generating income. And then it actually I created this when I had a stroke, and it actually has these things where you mark off how much water you drink in your day, and if you did 15 minutes of active minutes a day, because I'm supposed to walk 25 minutes a day, which I don't do. so it's just a visual, and I have it as a PDF, so that and people can download it for free and use that to just organize their brain during this time, to just say, okay, I do need to take care of myself and my business in the right way, and to learn to single task on the right things. So
we have just a couple of seconds left. So thank you so much, Elaine. This was absolutely wonderful, very insightful. So great. Grab the pain points, realize your unique solution, make it reveal your unique solution, explain your story. always provide proof of your traction. And T, which is for, I can't read my writing.
Tantalize them with the numbers.
Tantalize them with the number. And then the 2 points from your stroke is put your energy and time where your heart is. And number 2, manage the art of single tasking. Thank you so much, Elaine. This was absolutely wonderful. And we are in the process of posting all of our webcasts, and we will push anybody interested towards information on Easy Daisies. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. This was brilliant, and I hope that you'll come back and visit us. Just brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It was an honor. Thank you so much, ladies.
Thank you. Have a great day. Have a great week, and happy Mother's Day.
Yes, happy Mother's Day.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.